Ladies and gentlemen, audience from home, welcome to the July edition of Battle of Words Youth Edition. I'm your moderator, Maimuna Isa, and I'm honored to guide you on today's critical conversation that resonates with every Nigerian. Today's episode promises to be the most controversial yet. We are diving into the heart of Nigeria's most pressing national conversation. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 2 years in office. Is Nigeria on a path to greatness, or are we falling deeper into chaos? 3 bold youths will settle, each with facts, fire, and fears. We have Team Ondo, Team Abuja, and Team Anambra. Obidike Chidubem, which is representing Team Anambra, Adebayo Godman representing Team Ondo, and Chukwuebuka Nwosu representing Team Abuja. Team Ondo is saying that the president has done marvelously well, while on the other hand, Team Anambra is saying that he has not done badly, but the cracks are showing. And then Team Abuja, who is saying this is the worst government Nigeria has ever seen in its democracy. From flotation of the Naira currency to fuel subsidy removal, from inflation to insecurity, we will settle it. As a matter of fact, this isn't just a debate. This is a verbal battlefield where opinions meet truth. So, speakers, you have 8 minutes each to make your opening statements with strong data, facts, economic policies, and public impact analysis. We're going to start with Team Ondo. Adebayo, Godman.
In 2023, Nigeria spent more importing petrol than it did on education, health, and infrastructure combined. We're burning our future just to drive through the present. Good afternoon, respected judges, moderator, and fellow Nigerians. My name is Godman Adebayo, a student of the Ondo State University of Medical Sciences. I believe that Nigeria is not a failed project. Nigeria is just a patient in surgery. Yes, the wounds are there, the pain is there, but the healing is true. Some say President Tinubu has failed. I say President Tinubu is taking us on a path to real progress. And this progress, though painful, are real and are existent. I'm going to break this down to you in 6 points. I'll not speak in political jargons. I'm going to explain to you in clear terms how this progress, how these decisions are made, how they matter to us, and how they are reshaping lives for common people like you and me. Let's begin. Let's begin with the boldest economic correction ever: removing fuel subsidy. Nigeria fuel subsidy regime was for the rich, was for the capitalists, was for those who embezzled. In 2022, subsidy payments topped 4.4 trillion naira. This is more than the combined budget for health, for infrastructure, for education. That is not welfare. That is waste. That is wickedness. And that is war against the livelihood of the average Nigerian. In President Tinubu's first day in office, he ended this show of shame. He ended this lie. He completely scrapped fuel subsidy. Hence, diverting these trillions of naira into human capital, infrastructure, health, education. Yes, it's hot. Yes, it is costly. Yes, we can all feel it. But unlike past leaders who tiptoed around fire, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu walked right straight into the fire and is building Nigeria from the ashes. Secondly, I'm going to speak on the Naira floating and how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has helped Nigeria through Naira floating. Let's talk about currency. Before Tinubu, Nigeria operated a two-phased currency exchange rates, one for the elite, one for the common man, which is you and me. These elites made Nigeria a theater of arbitrage and a graveyard for investors. Investors were not willing to come and invest in the country because of these haphazard exchange rates. But by floating the Naira, Tinubu ensured that he unified our forex markets, hence reducing the rate of backdoor corruption, and it began to attract real capital from investors. In recent months, Nigeria has offloaded its $7 billion debt. This shows how much progress we are making in terms of foreign exchange. The Naira is rebounding. Even Bloomberg, they confirmed that Naira is the top performing African currency in 2024 June. This is not economic, my friends, this is not economic collapse. This is economic truth. And I want us to know that truth always comes before stability. Thirdly, education. For the first time in decades, the federal government is being intentional about how students get into tertiary institutions through public credit. Now, millions of students have access to loans without interest, and they're able to sponsor their educations. Millions of other privileged students now do not have to be roaming on the streets. There's reduction in crime rate. There's reduction in a lot of things due to this loan. In addition, Tinubu allocated over 3.5 trillion naira to education in his last concluded budget. This is the highest recorded allocation to education in Nigerian history. What does this imply? This implies that President Tinubu is very intentional about education. And as we all know, education is the forefront of national development. Without education, there is no national development. Him allocating this large amount of money to in his budget to education shows he knows what he's doing and he's steering us towards progress. Fourth, increased minimum wage. The administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu increased the minimum wage from 30,000 naira to over 70,000 naira. This is over a 120% increase. Yes, we understand inflation still persists. But this increase in salary has given Nigerian workers a little bit of rest. They're able to pay their children's school fees. They're able to eat better. They're able to sleep better. They're able to live better just because President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has decided to do the right thing. What does this mean for Nigerians? These wage earners can now put food on their tables. There's reduction in crime rates because there is more money in the system. Children can now go to school. This is not a cure-all affirmatively, but this has helped to reduce a lot of things. And I think President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing quite well. Fifth, I'll be speaking on infrastructures and how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has built what others were just planning. From the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, to the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, to the numerous seaports that are under construction, to the airports that have been commissioned, to bridges, to railway stations. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not just talking, he is doing. And how does this affect Nigerians? As little as this may seem, better roads means better food supply. Better roads means faster transit. Better roads means cheaper goods, because your goods can get to you faster. Better roads means more construction, more job opportunities. In fact, railway system provides new trade corridors in ways we have never imagined in Nigeria. Goods can come into the country, leave the country in ways we never imagined. Sixth, I'm going to speak on tax reforms. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has made sure to delete taxes on basic things like education, like healthcare, like every basic thing that there is. This tax reform has absolutely made goods and services cheaper for Nigerians, for common men like me and you. So this is my note to critics. Yes, there is inflation. Yes, inflation is biting. But global inflation did not spare UK. Global inflation did not spare US. Global inflation, in fact, did not spare South Africa. Inflation is not Tinubu's invention. It has always been there. But Nigeria's inflation is a delayed cost of fixing problems that should have been since solved. This is what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing. Yes, again, I admit, the cost of living is high. But I want you to ask yourself, is it better to live in a fantasy bubble, in a fantasy economic bubble, while watching our reserves go to zero, while watching our reserves deplete, while watching our foreign reserves be completely emptied? Or would you pay the price today and save the future? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu inherited a sinking ship, and he chose to steer it right into the storm, rather than pretend that the sea is clear and we all drown. Finally, reform is not romantic. Reform has never been funny. Reform is ruthless, but it is the only road to redemption. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu did not promise a miracle. He promised a mission, and he has dared to do what no other president, he has dared to do what no other leader has done in previous administrations. He has removed the mask of pretense from our economy. He has stood before a broken system and has decided to build it brick by brick, admittably, through painful reforms. But this is what is needed, because Nigeria is beyond child's play. Are we where we want to be? No. But we are no longer lying to ourselves. We are no longer running on borrowed time. We are no longer running on borrowed loans to make ourselves feel better. For once, we have a president who is not coasting on comfort. For once, we have a president with audacity. For once, we have a president who dares to dream big. So this is not a story of failure. This is not a story of failure. This is a story of a future that is finally built. Not for elites, but for Nigerians. Thank you.
That was quite an interesting and factual statement that you made right there, Mr. Adebayo Godman. It's more as if what Mr. Obasanjo did in 8 years, Mr. Tinubu is pushing into. Well, indeed, that is reform. That leads us to our next speaker, Mr. Obidike Chidubem, representing Team Anambra. Let's have it.
Thank you very much. 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 Mr. President's government, according to statistics, spent an estimated 15.1 trillion naira on petroleum subsidy in its first 14 months from June 2023 to July 2024. Savings claim that he asserted Nigerian saved 1 trillion naira, which proved to be 1.3 billion naira within just 2 months after subsidy removal in mid-2023. So panel, what does this thing prove? It shows one thing. It shows one thing, that the government, we are not totally saying that the government is not doing well, but then there are still cracks on the wall, which still proves that the president is in between success and failure. So panel, what am I here to prove? I'm going to show you that there are good policies, yet lack substantive and effective implementation. Ranging from different facts, I'm going to give you issues coming from fuel subsidy removal being necessary, but then with no safety net. Then 2, naira floating, which has bettered inflation before stabilizing. Then 3, we have unemployment still being at the crossroad of every Nigerian, especially Nigerian youth, being at the height of it. Then again, panel, we still have issues on education, power, internal insecurity, and then insecurity in the north, west, and south still festering around. Then again, we are not saying, we said earlier that not that the president has not been doing well, but the Mr. President has done well, yet there are places he needs attention to, which we said that there are good policies, but then lacks effective implementation. First, on the issue of subsidy. Like I said earlier, the government, according to statistics, spent an estimated 15.1 trillion naira on petroleum subsidy in its first 14 months in June 2023 to July 2024. What does this prove? As we know, the fuel subsidy is an approach made by the government to stabilize economy and then use the revenue gotten from fuel subsidy to subsidize other sectors like education and the rest. But then, this is a good policy, yes, but then we don't have effective implementation. How? The first subsidy being removed, yet people are dying on hardship. There is hunger, there is starvation, there is hike of transportation. Inflation is happening on a daily basis. Education became as poor as it could be anyway. But then, we think that what could have been the best thing that Mr. President could have done? The best thing we could have done is where we have an interconnection or integrating fuel subsidy with direct cash transfers for these individuals and then for the rural and average Nigerian citizens would have been the best way to solve this problem, get poverty solved, get education, stabilize economy, stabilize survival, and then it's going to be well. According to macro impact, it still proves that IMF data shows that subsidy costs dropped from 2.24 of GDP in 2022 to 0.96 in 2023 after the reform. It is a very good move. But where do we have a problem? We have a problem because that people are not, poverty is festering, insecurity is festering, hunger is festering, starvation is festering. Transportation of road becomes the hike of it all. Unemployment becomes the hike of it all. Inflation is still festering. Then again, panel, we still have the issues on the case of floating naira. To that effect, floating naira is a policy adopted and implemented by the central government to make Nigerian currency gain value. But then it has come with lot of problems and issues. According to statistics, let's check the issue of naira depreciation. Between June 2023 and 2024, the US dollar appreciated against approximately 156.7%. The naira depreciated by 61.5% from the period that policy was implemented. Now inflation rate becomes a problem. Inflation rate climbed from 21.9 in January 2023 to over 30% by late 2025. This is the highest level of inflation that has been recorded over 2 decades. Then panel, what does it still prove? It still proves that it still proves one thing, that let's show you the significance or how floating naira has influenced inflation. First, increase in import services. The issue becomes that when Nigeria's value depreciates, the cost of importation becomes high. When cost of importation becomes high, we talk about cost of importation of goods, raw materials becomes high, and then it becomes so problematic for Nigeria, a country that is so dependent on importation, particularly making them vulnerable to this hike of prices and inflation existing in the market industry and then market cycle. Then again, let's talk about inflationary pressures. As the cost of import is passed down to customers, this leads to high surge and prices of essential goods and services. How does it work? Like I told you earlier, that when floating naira happens, we people become so vulnerable to inflation, which for a country that is so dependent on importation, we become so vulnerable to inflation. What happens in the long run? What happens is that it's going to shake investors' capability, investors' capacities, investors' confidence, crumbling businesses, crumbling investments, crumbling, and then making us limited to importations and even vulnerable to exportations, which reduces Nigerian essence and then in foreign exchange markets and global marketing, which becomes a problem. Then again, what should have been the alternative to solve this problem? The alternative on the issue of floating naira becomes one, diversifying the economic system. Then again, panel, reduce dependency on exports, reduce dependence on imports, promote oil, reduce dependence on import is going to help Nigeria, where Nigeria exports more and then invest on other sectors like agriculture, manufacturing and service industries and agriculture to increase foreign exchange earnings and then exportation. Then again, what is another alternative? The next alternative is that let's boost competitiveness. If Nigeria invests more on agriculture, diversifying economy, manufacturing services and industries, what is going to happen? We boost market competitiveness within global exchange markets and then improve export exchange markets. Then again, we also, like I told you earlier, that the president has done well in some aspects, but then that the cracks of inefficiency possibly is still showing because poverty and inflation is still festering around. Let's talk about the issue of education. The issue of education, the government has implemented a policy, talk about the NEL fund, just to ensure that every Nigerian student, especially in the tertiary institution, has been doing well and then has been going to school, helping average Nigerians, especially those of them that are from poor backgrounds. But then, we still have a problem. Let's show you. According to official statistics, it still shows that these issues is still becoming a problem. We have increased issues in education. We have increased cases in education. Now, according to statistics, first year 2024, education received over 2.18 trillion naira, roughly estimated 7.9 of the total federal budget, which is a nice move, showing how our Mr. President is so involved in education. Then again, the Student Loan Initiative in April 2021, Mr. President signed the revised Student Loan Act, creating Nigerian Education Loan Fund by February 2024, and then now fund disbursed over 22.7 billion to remove 215,000 students, 250,000 students and send them back into institution. That is a nice thing. But where do we have a problem? We still have a problem on the issues of accessibility and then access inequities and then poor infrastructure, which continue to hamper those impacts, which continue to hamper the growth of these very policies. So what do we think that the Mr. President would have done? We look for issues, we look for situations, for example, scale up funding, building of infrastructures, building schools on underserved areas and communities. We still have underserved areas, rural areas, most especially in some rural areas, both in the north, south, east, that even these issues of NEL fund is still inaccessible to them, where most of the students can't even afford these things. Thank you.
Undeniable. We see it and we feel it, right? Mr. President is, he means well for his country, our nation, Nigeria, but intent is not the same as impact. Therefore, we need competent execution. That leads us to our third speaker, Mr. Chukwuebuka Nwosu.
In the course of Nigeria's history, Nigeria itself has experienced 16 administrations since its independence in 1960. All these administrations have both had ups and downs, varying with the ineffective policies and growth development. But the administration of Bola Ahmed Tinubu has failed Nigerians in 2 years. It has been active, contributing to various forms of ineffective policies, underdevelopment, and various crumbling of Nigerian sectors. I would explain everything in 6 points. The first point I have is ineffective and harsh policy implementation. Within the 2 years President Tinubu has been in power, there have been various policies that he has tried to enact or implement which have caused various forms of economic downturn and also civil hardship. One of these policies would be the fuel subsidy removal. Now, the fuel subsidy removal, if you think in layman's terms, is basically the use of funds to limit or to reduce the amount of money spent on fuel. When the fuel subsidy removal was still in place, it was about 193 naira for 1 liter. When removing the subsidy, immediately removed the subsidy, the price of fuel jumped to 445 naira all the way to 555 naira instantly. Now, this is about 180% increase in the price of fuel, hampering on the livelihood of Nigerians. Now, when you think about in this aspect, you have to realize that not every Nigerian has the money, and most people, Nigerians within the country, live below the poverty line. So this high increase of fuel just suddenly would obviously hamper the livelihood of Nigerians. It didn't only stop there. After a few years, it also increased to 617 naira per liter by July 2023, and also increased by 897 naira following the few months. This is another 211 to 353% increase in the following months. Going forward, in 2024, the fuel increased back all the way to 1,075 naira, and another 44.2 increase from the original price of 193 naira. Now, with this, you can now imagine people that now live on 30k per month when they are trying to survive, not only excluding goods. Imagine if they were to buy fuel for their generator. How do you expect them to survive? So that means how much would they be spending on 20 liters, 20k? That's already more than half of their salary gone already, just to buy fuel, either to put in their generator or to fuel their business. Going forward, this fuel subsidy removal was not the right move, in the sense of, if you are going to remove this fuel subsidy removal, there should have been an aspect, or there should have been a safety net, in the sense of it should have been removed slowly. But no, it was instantly removed, affecting the common man, and even some of the people in higher class and the middle class. Another policy you talk about is the floating of the dollar. Now, the floating of the dollar was done to make the floating of the naira was done to make the naira be the value of the naira to be determined by the free market rather than it being determined by the Central Bank of Nigeria. As this happened, immediately the naira went from 700 and subtraction naira all the way to 1,007 naira in the first few weeks, jumping again all the way to 1,400 naira by 2024, and of recently 1,500 to 1,700 naira, depending on using the official market or the black market. Now, you have to expect, now, as you see the floating of the naira, this floating of the naira caused the devaluation of the naira. Not only did it do that, it also caused a high rise in inflation, and the inflation also affected various forms of goods and services, affecting the cost of businesses, increasing the price of good agricultural crops, so on and so forth. And you still have to go back to the common man, because it's most of the elite class is not even up to 20% of Nigerians. So you have to actually think about it and say that, okay, how did this affect Nigerians? How did this affect public image? Most people could not. If 30,000 naira was what minimum wage was, and that's what more than half of Nigerians were earning at the time, how do you expect them to go to market? How do you expect them to buy goods? Because obviously the price in rice would jump. Not only that, the price in garri, the price in various forms of basic goods and necessities would jump, price in healthcare too, and so on and so forth. Another policy that was also initiated by the current administration was the change of the national anthem, which was not necessarily needed. That means that they shifted their focus on focusing on the basic matters that were supposed to help Nigerians into a trivial matter that did not necessarily concern us. Because in what way has changing the national anthem actually impacted Nigerians? It was just another thing that could go down in the history books that, okay, this current administration did. Simple as that. Another point I would like to put on Another point I would like to put out is constant economic downturn and high rise of inflation and cost of living. Now, when it comes to inflation, inflation has increased. The inflation we're experiencing currently now for the past 2 years has been the highest in over 30 years. Jumping from 450 naira, you could say, back in the Fourth Republic during Obasanjo's 18 naira during the Fourth Republic back in Obasanjo's time, all the way to 1,500, 1,600 naira. Now, how do you expect that to now affect people? Now, in 2025, Nigeria's inflation rate is 34% higher than it is, with an interest rate of 27.5%. Industries, as it has affected industries have dropped from 21% to 16%, saying that businesses have started to lose ground, meaning that the amount of businesses or local industries within Nigeria has started to crumble. Not only that has it happened, the Monetary Policy Committee also tried to adjust the inflation rate from 13.5% to 27.5%, but it drastically failed. And also, as you go on, real industry growth drops from 21% to 16%, and the GDP per capita also below $900 in the original standard of it being $3,200. Okay. Now, according to James Sampson's article, The Challenge of the Achievements of the Tinubu administration, food inflation too has also peaked to 35 to 37% across states, moving from 29% in January 2024. That should show you that there is a constant rise in prices, there's a constant rise in inflation, and there is no sign that anything is going down. This is to show you that the economic state of Nigeria is constantly being torn and dismantled at every chance it gets. And why is that the case? Now, as this inflation goes on, it also affects the cost of living. It affects real estate prices. It affects rent. The average price of buying a house now in Nigeria is nothing less than 100 million. How do you expect the average Nigerian to actually have 100 million to buy a house? Now, moving forward, another point would be the state of insecurity. The state of insecurity and poor safety regulations in Nigeria. Now, this is one of the major issues that has been going on in the current administration, because insecurity has been on a rise. Not only that, the rise of insurgency, the rise of banditry has also gone up for the past how many years? You have various states in the Middle Belt, just like Plateau, Benue, and so on, experiencing killings left, right, and center. People suffering, about 10 million people, 10 to 12 million people being displaced around local government areas. Amnesty International recorded about 10,200 killings at the start of Tinubu's inauguration. That's how do you expect to calculate that during the tenure of your administration, 10,000 people have died, and nothing has been done about it. Let's even go past that as we go into various forms of brain drain. Because of the way the economy is, because of the way the educational sector is, it has been recorded that about 75% of youths have the willingness to leave Nigeria for better opportunities. This is to show you that the country is not getting any better. Even adults too, about 65% of adults would be willing to leave Nigeria in any way, shape or form if they were given the opportunity. Even recorded between them, you still have about 18% of them saying that their families are already abroad. Moving past that, even when it comes to the political sector, there's also marginalization. Marginalization in the sense of what? Marginalization in the sense of most of high-ranking positions are held by Southwesterners. About 65% of high-ranking jobs are held. About 65% of high-ranking jobs are held by Southwesterners, ranging all the way from CBN governor or to the Inspector General of Police. And even when you look at the stats, but around the South and Southeast, only under 5% of them hold high-ranking positions. This is to show you that things are not even moving as balanced as they're supposed to do in the political sector as it starts to shift.
All right, well said. all his statements were things that we could actually relate to. And it's more as if Tinubu's government is a corporate takeover, literally, right? Democracy has been hijacked by desperation. All three speakers have made their statements amazingly well. So we'll be going on a 5 minute break. Don't go far away from your screens. We'll be right back. Votings begin today and will end on Monday. So make sure to vote for your favorite and who you think spoke based off what you relate to the most. Thank you. This is Battle of Words.
Are you ready to embark on an educational journey like no other? To expand your horizon, ignite your curiosity, and unleash your full potential beyond classroom? Welcome to Nigeria Educational TV.
Wait, what is this all about?
Nigeria Educational TV is not just a channel, it's an initiative brought to you by Bringing on Africa in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Education with a mission to provide inclusive and equitable quality education for all. Whether you're a student looking to enhance your learning or a parent concerned with what your word watch, Nigeria Educational TV got you covered.
Dive into our fascinating shows like live debate, quiz, documentaries, and lots more, all aligned with the UNESCO agenda.
So why wait? Tune in to Nigeria Educational TV today by subscribing to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media platforms to be entertained.
Welcome back to Battle of Words July edition, Youth edition. So, this is when the battle truly begins, okay? So right now, speakers, you all have the chance to challenge each other's facts and then defend their claims. I will direct you through 5 questionings and you have 2 minutes to respond and 1 minute for rebuttal, okay? Let's begin with the economy, a key issue affecting every Nigerian, which is the Naira flotation issue, right? So has this policy proven to be a strategic economic move, or has it deepened Nigerians' financial stress? Let's start with Team Anambra.
Yes, your question again.
Naira flotation proven to be a strategic economic move, or has it deepened Nigeria's financial stress?
All right. Okay. To answer that question, maybe if to answer that question, I would say that the floating naira issue has deepened Nigerian issues. So I'm going to answer that question with 2 possible approaches. First thing is inflationary pressure. Now, when we talk about inflationary pressure, it is so evident, though Mr. President and the central bank must have meant well to increase Nigerian value using market outcomes and prices. But then the bigger question remains that it causes a problem, especially for a country that is so dependent on importation. What does it still prove? That importation, the price of importation is going to be rising on daily basis. And as it rises on daily basis, what are we tied to? We are tied to extreme poverty, which reduces revenue generation and allocation, and that becomes a very existent problem affecting Nigeria, which has led to inflation of prices. We remember for the past 4 to 5 years in Nigeria, where people afford a loaf of bread for like 900 naira, 700 naira, 600. But here in Nigeria, you can't afford a loaf of bread at a whopping cost of 2,000 naira. So that is a very big problem. Then again, and the second response to that question, I think I also have increase in cost of living, economic instability, and the another thing is that this become a problem as it answers issues of debt servicing challenges. For example, like I said, for a country with foreign-dominated debts, a weaker currency increases the cost of servicing debt, straining public finances, and potentially leading to higher government borrowing. Do you see such an issue? So it becomes a problem crippling Nigerian economic. Thank you.
Okay, well said. That's very true because in Nigeria, Team Abuja, Team Ondo, do you have anything to say on this question? Abuja.
So yeah, when it comes to the floating of the naira, as it affects economic downturn, you can think of it in this aspect of the leaving the naira to float in the free market is essentially going to devalue it, because before it started floating, as you put it like that, it was already the naira was already high. Like the valuation of the naira was already very high. So now leaving it to be determined by the market value would also increase this devaluation by any amount of percentage, depending on how valuable it is. Now, moving forward to that, over the past 2 years, the naira has continued to go down and down and down. Like I already made in my earlier statements, shifting from 800 out of the late former president Muhammad Buhari to President Tinubu. The naira was already moving from 800, and it has now stayed at 1,400 to 1,500, fluctuating between 400 to 700. Now, because of that, the purchasing power of the naira has even dropped. An example of this would be what you would need 100 naira to buy back in 2 years or 3 years would now be up to 1,000 naira because of how much the naira has depreciated.
Well said. Okay, Ondo.
So, before June 2023, Nigeria operated a fixed or central bank managed rates, where the central bank will artificially peg the price of naira against the dollar. Do you know what this did? This drained the foreign reserves. We used billions of dollars to help subsidize the cost of naira just to feel good about ourselves. Billions of dollars that could have been invested towards projects, towards human capital, towards finance, towards healthcare, towards education, towards a lot of things. But just because we wanted to feel good about ourselves, that, we are at 100 naira per dollar, we're burning this money. Also, I'm going to take it in the angle of global proof. Floating the native or the local currencies, such as naira, has worked in previous countries. Egypt has done it. India has done it. In 1991, India was at the crux of crisis. They floated their currency. Yes, it was painful at short term. But over time, we see how the economy of India is way better than ours. In Egypt, you can see how the economy of Egypt, they did the similar thing. You can see how it's way better than ours. Also, I'm going to speak on the benefits that this flotation of currency has done. Foreign inflows, we have increased foreign inflows because now there is no rigged exchange rates. There's increased autonomy. In conclusion, we admit this is painful. The reform is painful, but it is necessary. This is not the fault of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is fault of mistakes and errors and ignorance of previous administration. So let's just be patient for a little while to preserve our future. Thank you.
Any rebuttals for yourselves? Okay, that leads me to my next question, right? All of you made mention about the fuel subsidy removal, right? So has the subsidy removal helped the poor, or has it punished them? Timondo, let's have you first.
Of course, the fuel subsidy removal has helped the poor in ways more than we can imagine. We're going to start with this. Fuel subsidy has never benefited Nigeria. The money is going into the pocket of capitalists. The money is going into the pocket of embezzlers. The money is going into the pocket of people, of politicians. Money that should be invested toward the country is going into pockets of the wrong people. So now that the subsidy has been removed, there's now trillions of nairas that can be allocated into health for the poor people, that can be allocated into education, such as the NEL Fund program. Without this subsidy removal, there is no NEL Fund. Without NEL Fund, more people are out of school. So let's think about it. The thing about my competitors is they are thinking short term. I encourage us henceforth to think long term. Thank you.
Okay, Team Abuja.
So yeah, the fuel subsidy removal, if you look at it, has in no way, shape or form helped the poor in any way. My opponent here, Mr. Goodluck, keeps saying that it has helped us, it has improved the economy and so on and so forth. But if you look at it, we're 2 years into President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration, yet we have not seen any of this money being implemented in anything. Infrastructure is down. Nothing has been done of recently. The poor are getting poorer. He's saying that the fuel subsidy was for the capitalists and everything, but yet the money that was supposed for the fuel that was removed and is not subsidizing the fuel anymore, where is it in the economy? Where is it in education, the educational sector? Because universities are going down. Roads that people used to travel for transportation, agricultural transportation, they are not being built. Infrastructure for civil service work, military bases, we are not seeing any progress, we are not seeing any reports. Everything just keeps going down. So I don't believe that the fuel subsidy removal has helped anyway.
Do you have anything to rebut what he said?
Yes, I do. Unfortunately, my friend here has decided to play ignorant and is asking what has the funds been directed into. Countless programs. Like I mentioned the other time, I said Nel Fund. Nel Fund has spent over 200 billion naira in subsidizing education. Except we want to act and play as if education is nothing. This is one of the contributions of the fuel subsidy removal. We have countless railway stations that have been constructed. I don't know how we want to discuss and we are ignoring this. We have the expressway, Lagos-Ibadan expressway. We have Lagos-Maiduguri road. We have seaports that are under construction. We have airports that are under construction. We have countless and numerous things. So what exactly do you want the money should have been invested into?
Anambra, you have something to say.
All right, thank you so much. I think I would engage Godman on this. My first question, I have two questions for you. First thing is, you talked about fuel subsidy, that there would have been no phase on education without fuel subsidy. You mentioned Nel Fund, right? Now, I want to ask you something. You know that Nel Fund is a loan given to the student, right? Now, what does it still mean? That they're still going to pay back this loan. This is a government that gives them principle of give and take. That's what it means. So then, where lies the justification of government subsidizing that to give them and then they will pay later? Isn't that a kind of a jeopardy or fraud on the side of government? Then second, you still have issues on transportation. The question on transportation is this. And we get to issues in different country and express, we have toll gates, right? And this transport, and drivers still pay taxes on these toll gates. We have Benue State toll gate, we have Makurdi toll gate, we have every of the toll gates. Even as I was coming to Abuja, I was experiencing the same problem. So now, realize the evidence that this taxation is effective if government still allows them to pay tax. Then again, on the third question, you still talked about the fact on how this subsidy is more like it favors, how subsidy has only favors or goes into the pockets of the capitalists. But then, can you give us a comparative analysis of, have you suddenly forgotten how these capitalists drive the economy in terms of employment, industrialization, markets, providence, and then how they drive the source of income? Now, what does this still prove? That these same individuals are not going to recruit people, they're not going to invest, they're not going to still take people in terms of petroleum, transportation. You know how much more oil sectors add to employment and add to education. That's what for you to prove.
Mr. Godman, do you have a response to his question?
I have a response, but my friend from Anambra decided to bombard me with questions. So I might have to ask him to repeat some of his questions again. So for the first thing, about the Nel Fund loan, there is no place in the world, or let's say every developed city or every developed country, they give loans to their students. Let's not be ridiculous and act ignorant. Firstly, the United States give loans like it's not a new thing. They paid loans, students take loans for education. In this light, what the Nigerian government is doing is they are giving you loans that could have been used for other things, loans that could have been diverted into maybe security. We are prioritizing, we are putting education first. We are giving you these loans, pay back at a later date, and doing the interesting thing, no interest at all. So I don't know how this has proven to be a scam. Will you interest me with your second question?
Question is, when you talked about transportation and the rest of transportation, to be precise, and I gave instances of these drivers and road users, especially and the expressway. I made mention of Benue State toll gates and the rest. These people still pay taxes. These people still collect tax from them in every toll gate. What does it simply prove? That a driver to accomplish a particular journey pays a whooping sum of X, that is a whooping sum of above 2,000 naira just to maybe from a particular state to a particular state, because at every toll gate you have a tax to pay. So if that is the case, what's then the essence?
Okay. So I would like to reiterate that these are not taxes. Most times, they are money back-endedly collected by officials that are at the gate or are on the highways or anything. This is not President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's fault. There is corruption in the country, undeniably. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu cannot sit on the highway to help to ensure that there is no exchange, like drivers do not have to pay. He's doing his best in terms of transportation by airports, railways, road construction of roads, but we also have to face the systemic issue of corruption, which is working on. But he has spent 2 years in office. You cannot magically expect him to fix every security personnel that is on the road from collecting money. Thank you.
This is getting very interesting, very heated, but it seems like Mr. Chukwuebuka still isn't satisfied. Let's hear what you have to say.
So yeah, I would like to rebut so many points from Team Ondo, Mr. Goodluck over here. The first one you said is that the loans. You gave example of loans and you used the United States. You do know about this. This is an estimated point, but you do know about 30 to 40% of people in America are suffering from student loans debt, because they don't have to pay. And now that Nigeria is already an unstable economy, how do you expect these people to come out and get jobs to now pay back that said loan? Because the unemployment rate has kept going up for the past 2 years and everything. Not only did you say that, you still keep mentioning airports and roads and infrastructural development, but there are various regions within the southeast, south, and northeast, northwest that have various terrible roads that have still not been fixed on. Various places that you cannot even go to. Even an example would be the Abuja-Lokoja road, which is still not paved in the 2 years that President Tinubu has been in office. So and you're saying it's not his job, like he cannot necessarily see everything that is going on, but is it not his job to fight corruption? Is it not his job to put people in place that would help to ease the rate of corruption within the country? So I just want to point that out, that the points you're making, are just there. Thank you.
This is what we call an actual battlefield. Everyone is giving back to back to back. Okay, let's switch things up, okay? So let's talk about something that's a pressing issue that affects both the rich and the poor, which is insecurity. So why is Nigeria, are you guys listening to me? Why is Nigeria still bleeding from banditry, kidnapping, and insurgency? Has the government lost control? Team Abuja, let's have what you want to say about that.
Okay, so Nigeria, over the course of 2 years, I will still keep emphasizing this fact, over the course of 2 years, has been plagued with serious insecurity around the northern region, even the eastern region. So this is mainly due to the lack of proper security personnel being deployed into the area. Like, for example, in Benue State, where about 200 and something people were killed, and it took about how long for military personnel to be deployed and to be even locate the people that were responsible for this act. Like, an example of this would be a report shows that about 230,000 military personnel are active duty and about 300 and something thousand police are also active in a country with population of 220 to 230 million people. How do you expect 200,000 or 300,000 to actually be able to maintain law and order within these countries? Not only that, the security structure is very underfunded in the sense of their minimal military bases all around. There are 36 states and capital, 36 states, including the federal capital, which makes it 37 institutional geographies in Nigeria, and yet how do you expect 230 to 300,000 active security personnel to be moving up and down? Their bases are not even located in many of these places where are being attacked, such as Zamfara and so on. So this is just basically due to the effectiveness and proper allocation of security personnel all around, and it has affected the population of these people that are being attacked, to the point that even them, they carry arms in order to protect themselves, and they don't even rely on the police. Some of the people they even call, because you cannot expect the military to always fight banditry attack or small crimes. That's the job of the police. But yet the job of the police, the police self are even ineffective when it comes to handling certain types of these matters.
Team Anambra, what's your take on this, on insecurity, and what do you think you would do differently?
Okay. Mr. President claims in his midterm, he addresses and asserted improvements on reduced banditry in the northwest, and then safer highways, and then a return to forming a better Nigeria in terms of security. But then that sounds more like an empty promise anyway. So, in the issue of security, we still have issues in southeast, northwest, and then every other part of Nigeria, to be precise. School children are not safe, right? Boarding school students are not safe. Rural areas are not safe. We have issues of unknown gunmen, Fulani headsmen, Boko Haram, banditries, which are affecting most especially people and farmers at the rural areas. It is still becoming a problem. A few months ago, we had issues of people in Nsukka parts of Nigeria being targeted by criminals and then killed by unknown insecurity agents. But then, if I were the one, like you said, what would I have done? So the resolution is this. First thing is investment in community-based prevention and then engagement. How does it work? If governments can strengthen security to invest in community securities, for instance, especially those areas of the country that are being affected by insecurity, like I mentioned, southeast, northwest, and then some part of the rural part of southeast. So if there is a strengthened community security, investing in community police, community security agents, AVGs, and the rest of them, is going to be much more better. And then again, on the second approach, you're going to have also strategies around safety, and then effective community policing initiatives, and then militarized responses. And then these issues, and at the same time addressing socio-economic problems. How? These socio-economic problems are still the reason people are being insecure. Poverty, hunger, starvation, unemployment. All these things still add to insecurity. So we think that when some of socio-economic problems are being addressed, then we're going to get security better. Thank you.
Team Ondo, let's have your opinion.
So, quite interestingly, I want us to understand that insecurity, insurgency, terrorism did not start from the administration of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. It has started decades ago. It has started 15, 20 years ago. So I want us to know that this is a problem he inherited. This is not caused by his own governance. So it is quite appalling that you want to characterize this whole thing to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And also, I want us to know that terrorism, banditry, armed robbery, crime rate generally is highly associated with socio-economic problems such as poverty, such as lack of education, such as lack of feeding and all those kind of things. So I want us to know that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is addressing the root cause of all these things, such as poverty, such as education, through the NELFOD program. So it is quite inept to have concluded that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not addressing the issues of terrorism. And also, to address my friend from Anambra, he said he also made mention of these socio-economic issues and things we have done differently. I feel it's quite interesting because every point he gave has been done by the president. And also, I want us to realize that in revolution, because President Ahmed Tinubu is having a revolution. In revolution, the most important thing is doggedness and time. He has spent 2 years out of a possible 8 years. He's not a magician, he's human, and he's doing his possible best. Thank you.
I love what you all said. Does anyone has anything to rebut? Okay, Mr. Chukwuebuka, let's have it.
So yeah, Tinubu brought up a very good point, saying that the insecurity did not start with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, which I agree with, because insecurity has always been in this country. But the problem is that when I was addressing this issue, I didn't say he started it. I said that it has become increasingly worse during his tenure. You're saying that 2 years is not enough for him to do anything, but I want to bring us an example of another African nation, Burkina Faso, under the leadership of President Ibrahim Traoré, who in the year and a half or 2 years that he has been in office has drastically changed the nation for the better, bringing up economic development. You say that this insecurity is due to the fact of economic problems and economic insecurity, economic disparities, and that's why the insecurity progresses, and he's fixing that. But the problem is that over the course of a year plus, especially within the Federal Capital Territory, a lot insecurity has increased. In Abuja, the rise of kidnapping, kidnapping, ritual abductions, and so on, has actually drastically increased. If you were to ask the average person that stays in Abuja, they will tell you that they are always scared of their life. One chance, which is abduction through taxi drivers and so by the taxi drivers and so on. So this is just basically things that are happening within these 2 years. And you can still, again, I still fall on this point that you can't say 2 years isn't enough time. There's 365 days in 1 year. If you were to do it times 2, how much would you get? And because when he implemented fuel subsidy, it affected the economy very immediately. So you can't say the initiating policies that would help prevent insecurity would not be just as fast.
Have any rebuttal? Yes. You do, please. Let's have it.
How would you prove your case with this whooping statistics that says, just like you mentioned about issue of socioeconomic problems, you mentioned unemployment, and then you at the end of the day shot yourself at the leg, say this is not the president problem, but then can you prove your case with this statistic? In 2024, unemployment rate was 9.2%, indicating many Nigerians work less than 40 hours a week and then earn insufficiently. Informal employment rose to 93.0% in 2024, highlighting that economy's reliance is on informal jobs, which simply prove that about 70% of Nigerians are not employed. Even those who are employed are earning insufficiently. And we believe that this is still what you said influences insecurity. So how would you balance the statistics with your claims?
Answer.
Yeah. So before I start, I believe this is a debate of 3 people. Quite interestingly, my opponents have decided to form a team against me, but I'm man enough to take it. My friend from Abuja said Abuja citizens claim they're always scared for their life. Nigerians have always been scared for their life since 1990. It is not Tinubu's thing. They're always scared for their life. So I don't know why you're bringing this notion or this ideology into today's debate. And also, you said what steps are the president taking? The budget for defense is at an all-time high. This is the highest allocation of money ever given to the budget, ever given to the defense sector. That means there's increased, and also still on talking of defense, there's increased salaries for the police, increased salary for civil defense, increased salary for soldiers. This is to make them work effectively. And also there have been purchase of high-level fighter jets, high-level motorized devices, high-level IED devices. All these things are in an attempt to improve security. I don't remember what you said. These are the issues.
Let's just move to the next question, right? And this brings us to cost of living. Everyone has something to say when it comes to cost of living. The difference from, Mr. President Tinubu, like all the differences from his regime and the past regime, okay? We can remember a loaf of bread used to be like 500, 600, but today it's around 1,500 and even up to 2,000 naira, okay? Rent is unbearable. Is this renewed hope or renewed hunger?
So the cost of living has drastically increased over the past 2 years when you look at it, because I made a point earlier that what do you use 100 naira to buy in the previous years, you have to use 1,000 naira to buy it now. When you look at it, I commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for increasing the minimum wage from 30,000 naira to 80,000 naira. But that is blown into the wind when you compare the cost of living now, because you're averaging about 400,000 naira for just monthly expenditures. Because if you look at it now, what is the price of rice? A bag of rice, it's around 70 to 80,000 naira. So you're going to spend your entire allowance just to buy one bag of rice. It doesn't make any sense if you look at it. And that's even if you're an average Nigerian. Like I said before, most Nigerians live below the poverty line. So some of them don't even get this 80,000 naira benefit. Some of them are getting 30,000 naira. Some of them are getting 20,000 naira. And there's a big gap between the politically rich or the elites and the middle class. And there's even another bigger gap between the middle class and the poor. So when you now look at this, the politically rich or the elites don't necessarily know what is affecting them, because they have very high salaries compared to the middle class, and the middle class just have to go by. Everybody's trying to adapt. So this is actually affecting everybody drastically. And it's not like as if things are even getting any better, because when at the start of May 2023, that was how the cost of living started to rise up and up and up and up. And the money was not, their salaries, their wages was not going up either. So if you look at it from this angle, this perspective, it actually very terrible on how the cost of living is going.
Team Ondo.
Cost of living, I feel like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing quite well. In the long run, or in the grand scheme of things, my competitors have failed to recognize or identify the involvement of international influences on the nation's economy. The rising price of things, the inflation, which is the rising price of goods and services, is not completely due to, one, it's due to corruption of previous governments. It's due to false subsidy that they've been parting with millions of dollars, but it's not completely due to that. It is also due to COVID, year 2020. It is due to the Russian-Ukraine war. These things affect our country in way more ways than you can imagine. And also, this rise in inflation, contributing it to Nigeria is quite funny, because US at an all-time high in terms of inflation. UK at an all-time high in terms of inflation. Canada is at an all-time high. Is Tinubu their president? No, he is not. So I don't understand how we are contributing inflation strictly to Tinubu's government. Thank you.
Okay. And Team Anambra, let's have your take on this.
It is so laughable to start this way, but the thing is this. Do you know that an average Nigeria here live below $1? Right? Or below $100. An average Nigerian here live below $100. Now, this is what the case looks like. For example, well, we mentioned the fact that for the past 3 years, for the past 10 years, people have been, a loaf of bread is bought at the rate of 500, 400, sometimes 600. But now you can't even afford a loaf of bread at the rate of 1,500 naira. Now compare these things to a poor Nigerian student surviving at the risk of school fees, and then yet to talk about the cost of living. It becomes a problem, and then it becomes an issue to rumble about. And then talk about the fact, and also a poor Nigerian youth who is still struggling to get a job. There is no fertile ground for employment, and that we are not saying that the president is not doing well. The president has done well, but what's the argument? And the issue we have is that there are still cracks on the wall. Cost of living is getting so high. There may be implementation, but there may be policies, just like you have mentioned, but then there are not proper execution and implementation of those policies as far as cost of living is concerned. Thank you.
Okay. Team, does anyone have a rebuttal? Okay. Team Ondo.
Finally, for cost of living, time immemorial, when bread was 100 naira, bread was expensive. When bread was 50 naira, bread was expensive. When bread was 1 naira, bread was expensive to the average Nigerian. What does this mean? It is the major crux of my argument is this is not President Bola Ahmed Tinubu thing. This is an aggregate result of past administration and the errors they've been making and the mistakes they've been making. Now is the current president left to face it, left to dance to the music. He's doing that effectively, but he cannot do abracadabra and everything is going to be fixed. These things were already there, and for cost of living has always been high. Nigerians have always been living below the standard international cost of living of humans. And also, as for cost of living, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing the necessary things, which includes, that's why I say he's playing the long game. As funny and it's quite funny that my opponents don't want to accept that, but he's playing the long game. For cost of living, you don't just magically turn the prices up. You start with the basic things: education, transport. You transport food. It's now easier to transport food stuff from the village, from farmlands to cities, because there are better roads. Hence, better transport means cheaper food. Cheaper food means less rate of crime and happy citizens. So we're just look at it in the sense of long game. Admittably, yes, the country is not finding it funny. But this is not because of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. This is because of the policies he's enforcing to make sure that we do not please ourselves today and suffer extremely dearly tomorrow. Thank you.
Mr. Godman, you speak about reforms, but reforms don't feed people. Can we eat policy? Can we eat policies? We can't. Anyway, Butter.
So, yeah, when you bring up past administrations and you say that times have always been hard, you forget to accept that if you let me even say that, look at it from this point: about 50% of Nigerians are 35 and above. So most of them have already experienced the past administrations. So now, if you look at it from their perspective, they are analyzing the current president's administration from the lenses of what they have experienced, because that's how human beings judge. They judge from their past experience. So if you come and say that they should wait the long run, and things keep going up, things keep getting more expensive, they are not able to eat, how do you expect them to feel? You can't even, like, for example, if you were to go to any local area and tell them that, don't worry, just wait an extra 2 more years. Just wait an extra 2 more years, you'll be able to eat. To tell that to somebody that's not eating for 5 days, you think they would listen to you? They would not even pay attention, because they have experienced 2 years and nothing has changed, nothing has calmed down. You can bring up that, okay, past administrations have done this, but at least things were stable. The late former president, Muhammad Buhari, at least the food price did not go up and down. It was stable for a moment. So you can say the same thing about former president Goodluck Jonathan. Things were stable. But when it comes to this current administration, things keep going up and they keep going up, and they only come down slightly, but not to an extent that everybody can actually manage.
Mr. Chukwuebuka, you sound so emotional. Anyways, there's a rebuttal from Ondo.
Yes. It's quite painful that we have to extend this conversation, because my opponents have decided to be blind to reasoning. But then I would say this. Again, they keep bombarding me with facts and opinions. I'm sorry, what was the first thing you said? The first thing you said. So I'm sorry, can you say the first sentence?
Okay, how about we have Mr. Obidike Chidubem. Okay, let's hear what.
I'm going to engage Team Chukwuebuka on something. You made mention of minimum wage, corruption, and the rest, right? Yeah. So I think I have to engage you on that part. My first question is on corruption. I think I would attest to the fact that there are many strategies mapped out by Mr. President as far as corruption is concerned, especially on the education sector. Why I'm so much passionate about education sector that we believe that education is the bedrock of every economic development or every Nigerian development in terms of employment, as the case may be. Now, the question is this. The question is this: we have an official statistics that proves that the president has, in education, has created a remitter in most tertiary institutions and federal universities to assess their funds and have a proper accountability, and then to foster revenue allocation, and then be able to have an effective account. And then I think that's such a brilliant policy and a brilliant move to destabilize corruption and then effect proper accountability. Would you also deny such move towards corruption? That's first question. Then second question is, you made mention of minimum wage. We know what minimum wage has been, especially for corpers. Right now, core members are getting like 80,000 naira as a minimum wage, right? Yes. So I think that is also a step-by-step process towards effective and then improved livelihood for them. And then knowing that even most of them are being paid in their different schools aside what government gives them. Some of them are still given incentives. So how do you prove that in your own world?
All right. So I'm so sorry for the first question. I didn't actually get the point you were trying to put across. But for your second question, when you're saying that that corpers are still getting about 70 to 80,000, and from there they are still getting paid, that implementation wasn't necessarily done until or recently, because they were still being paid that 33,000. It even got to the point that a corper had to go online to say that things were getting so hard for her because even a crate of egg was so expensive for her to pay. And people came online. They called it the 30-day rant challenge, that mostly coppers and mostly young people coming out to say, oh, government is hard, this is happening and that is happening. The initiative that the government took was not even to their first reaction wasn't to even initiate it immediately. It was to push the copper aside and warn her. Even of now, there's a rumor going around that they increased her service for an extra 1 year. I really don't know how sure that is, but I'm just putting it out there. So back to the point I was not trying to make across, that's just of recently that they just started increasing their salaries. So what about the time period that their salaries were still on that 30K or that 33K? I still feel that incentive was not good, because you have to also put in fact that even though they are still getting paid in the places of their where they are being positioned, the pay it might not be high. I know some coppers that are being paid 5K per month. 5K per month. I know some that are being paid 10, that are being paid 20. And if you now add that to the previous 30K, high 50K, 50K, 40K, 35K, that's what they are basically going to be getting. So yeah, I don't really feel that's actually the right incentive. But of recently, being that they just increased it to 70K, you can say that that was actually a very good move.
All amazing responses, but this leads me to my last question before we go to our break. So the 2027 elections are coming around. Do you think Nigerians will go for continuity or regression? Team Anambra, let's have it. "2027 elections are around the corner. Do you think Nigerians will go for continuity or regression?"
Going for continuity or regression? Well, it depends on the outcome of the last 2 years. Like I said, if the policies the Mr. President have now were able to be perfectly implemented or executed, giving Nigerians what they need, giving them the cost of living they need, giving them deflating inflations, and then giving them a standard livelihood, there is every guarantee that people are going to still push for continuity. But then if things remains as it is today, then we might have fear for regression. Thank you.
Abuja, let's have it.
So as the 2027 elections are coming up, will Nigerians push for continuity or regression? So you have to basically look at this from the perspective, as Team Anambra, Mr. Chidubem, has pointed out, that he said that if the policies were enacted properly. Well, I feel that if you were to have 2 good years and 2 bad years, not everybody is going to assess that in that aspect, because you would look at it that, Nigerians would look at the first 2 years saying that things are already bad. What do you expect to happen in the next 2 years? Even if the next 2 years are going to be blissful, or they are going to be blissful, or they are going to be progressive. It will actually take some sort of miracle for the 2 years, because let me put it in this perspective. Sorry. Since these 2 years are already up, they have the remaining 2 years for President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to actually change Nigeria around. And if that is going to happen, it's not necessarily going to fix the country for the better. It's just going to readjust some of the policies that have already been implemented. And it's doing that. It's not necessarily going to take Nigeria to the betterment of the future. It's just going to take it back to how it was before he came about, or even a little bit better. But I feel Nigerians are not going to accept it, so I think they won't push for continuity.
Mr. Godman, let's have your opinion.
Thank you very much for that interesting question. Nigerians, history teaches us that nations don't abandon reforms mid-stride, because especially when these reforms are already showing results. Hence, I'm going to be showing you that Nigerians appreciate results above any other things, because even administrations where there were no results, they voted them back in. Firstly, I'm going to show you that in President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's regime, in just 2 years, the Naira is stabilizing after a turbulent but necessary float. Foreign investments are rising, over $130 billion in pledge already to investment. Also, oil production is increasing because of the establishment of numerous oil rigs. Also, we have digital economy and manufacturing hubs which are receiving direct presidential focus. Also, safety nets such as the Nel Fund establishments are already there. The most important thing Nigeria wants is intent. Do you have the good intent? President Bola Ahmed Tinubu clearly has intent and is worthy for a re-election in 2027 elections. So I'm going to ask a question. Nigerians, do we want to start again, throwing away all the sacrifice that has been made and the recovery that we are making? Or do you want to protect the progress and do you want to keep building forward? I'm definite and I'm sure that every Nigerian wants progress. Every Nigerian wants to move forward. Every Nigerian wants a leader that will not lie to them. Every Nigerian wants someone that is bold and capable. Every Nigerian wants Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And I'm sure the 2027 election is going to win it again. Thank you.
Very, very interesting. The president said himself, let the poor breathe. Okay, we'll be going on a break. Don't go too far. Stay right there. Just 5 minutes. And this is Battle of the Words. Thank you.
Hey Nigerians, are you ready to embark on an educational journey like no other? To expand your horizon, ignite your curiosity, and unleash your full potential beyond classroom? Welcome to Nigeria Educational TV.
Wait, what is this all about?
Nigeria Educational TV is not just a channel, it's an initiative brought to you by Bringing on Africa in collaboration with the Federal Ministry of Education with a mission to provide inclusive and equitable quality education for all. Whether you're a student looking to enhance your learning or a parent concerned with what your word watch, Nigeria Educational TV got you covered.
Dive into our fascinating shows like live debate, quiz, documentaries, and lots more, all aligned with the UNESCO agenda.
So why wait? Tune in to Nigeria Educational TV today by subscribing to our YouTube channel and follow us on all our social media platforms to be entertained.
Welcome back to the verbal battlefield. Speakers, this is your last chance. You have 2 minutes to summarize your points, to summarize your arguments, and appeal to the audience to vote for you and why they should vote for you and why you should be the winner of today's battlefield. Let's start with Team Ondo, Mr. Godman.
Ladies and gentlemen, reform is never easy, but it is necessary. President Tinubu chose courage over convenience. He ended the wasteful fuel subsidy. He unified a corrupt exchange rate system. He increased the minimum wage, and he launched initiatives such as the Nel Fund program to support the vulnerable. The hardship is real, but so is the honesty. For once, we have a government telling us the truth, not masking the cracks, but rebuilding the foundation. And to you, the judges, the audience, and the future of this nation, I say to this: if I've shown you that these reforms are not reckless, but they are redemptive, they are necessary, and they are important, then I've proven to you, if I've proven to you that this government is not presiding over decline, but is driving a difficult recovery, if I've shown you that these reforms, if I've shown you that genuine progress can sometimes look like discomfort that we're all facing before it looks like success, then I humbly ask for your vote. Not out of sentiment, but because the facts, the figures, and the future all agrees. The road is rough, but we're finally moving forward. Thank you.
Team Anambra.
Okay. Reforms, very necessary. Reforms, very nice. Reforms, very hopeful. But then becomes a chaff in the wind when it is not backed up with effective implementation that includes the poor, the average, the rich, and the elites, as the case may be. So then, in today's debate, what did we do? I told you that Mr. President's tenure is in between success and failure, telling you that there are some places Mr. President did well, running a comparative analysis of how, on the both sides, telling you that he did well on this aspect but then in the other aspects, just like fuel subsidy, unemployment, floating naira, that we need effective executions and implementation of such policies that is inclusive of the average Nigerians and poor Nigerians as the stakeholders of today's debate. Then again, if I have actually convinced you, giving you substantives and then points, facts and analysis to prove why, to prove my case, then I would humbly request that you vote Chidubem Team Anambra. Thank you.
Team Abuja.
My fellow Nigerians, so in the course of what has been said so far, I have brought various points to show you that in the 2 years that President Bola Tinubu has been in power, we have yet to see any significant form of development or any form of progress. Because in over the years, we have seen the economic downturn of Nigeria, which has included the highest rate of inflation in over 30 years. Not only that, we have seen the devaluation of the naira in various ways. The fuel subsidy removal has drastically hampered the livelihood of Nigerians, especially when it comes to the cost of living, where you cannot even buy the basic necessities. Not only do you move past that, you also look at the healthcare situation of Nigeria, where even our politicians are going out of the country to receive medical health care. What does this tell you? This tells you that Nigerians can't even receive basic healthcare needs. Moving past that, we have just seen that even me, I cannot even tell you because I am a young person, but I leave it up to you with your own perspective. What essentially do you see within Nigeria? Do you see development, or do you see a country regressing back all the way to its roots? So I leave you with this point. You can have a house, but with no food, with no shelter, with no water, with nothing. You only have a house. You don't have the basic necessities within it. So I tell you to vote for Team Abuja, Nwosu Chukwuebuka Emmanuel.
Well said. Thank you to our debaters for this enlightening and passionate exchange, and thank you to the audience for engaging with us. You've heard it all. Now it's your turn to vote. Head to www.bringitonafrica.org/vote and vote for whoever you feel best reflects your truth. Voting ends on Monday, and the winner of this will walk away with a trophy of Battle of Words and a prize money of 150,000 naira. Okay, keep speaking the truth, keep shaping Nigeria. I am Maimuna Isa, and this has been assessing President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's 2 years in office decline or progress. This is Battle of Words. Thank you.